The Land Management Transport or Time of Use Charging Amendment Bill has passed its first reading in Parliament, aimed at reducing traffic congestion and improving productivity on our busiest roads. Transport Minister Chris Bishop highlighted that congestion costs around $2.6 billion annually in Auckland and leads to significant time loss. Now, the bill proposes charging motorists for peak hour travel, which they say could reduce congestion by up to 12%, and then funds raised would go towards improving transport infrastructure. Now, the bill would also enable the New Zealand Transport Agency and local councils to develop region-specific charging schemes. So, look, this has been talked about for quite a few years now. This same report that was commissioned by Auckland's Mayor Wayne Brown, who's all for it, also said, besides the $2.6 billion, that Aucklanders waste over 17 hours in traffic each year, leading to $1.9 billion in delays and an additional $700 million in macro economic costs. Oh, lots of big figures being thrown around there. However, the Automobile Association has expressed concerns about affordability, scepticism about its effectiveness, and emphasised the need for viable travel alternatives. And the AA's Transport Policy and Advocacy Director is Martin Glynn, and he joins me now. Martin, a very good afternoon to you.
Good afternoon.
Martin, the AA has said that it is open to congestion charges, that if they are fair and affordable. Can you elaborate?
Yeah, it's something our members are really concerned about when we've surveyed them. I think it's important to acknowledge that where congestion charging's been put in place elsewhere, and it really still is only a handful of cities, they tend to be much denser, and so therefore have the public transport networks to make. That's really not the case in New Zealand. Certainly, there's pretty good public transport into Auckland and Wellington city centres now, and Auckland's will get better, of course, when the City Rail link opens next year. But elsewhere, it's pretty thin on the ground, and people really rely on cars. So fair and affordable for us means people are still able to meet their transport needs at peak times, so that, you know, when they need to get to work, they need to get to education, they may have ongoing medical appointments to make. It can't be a barrier to that.
You mentioned, you know, in other cities it's worked, but it's only a handful. I mean, we know London, of course, Singapore and Stockholm have done it. London says they've reduced traffic by about 30% and improving air quality. But I mean, you know, if you've been to London, Martin, I've been to London, they are so far ahead with their public transport. You know, we're apples and oranges to compare each other. So, you know, because I live in Auckland, I'm lucky enough to work from home, but, you know, for the 30 odd years I used to drive into the city. And I can tell you right now that, you know, there is not even now transport for me to get into the stations I used to work at. I'd have to take a couple of buses, and then, you know, that's fine, but it's not as easy as even the mayor is making out. Also, does the AA know what charge would be likely, Martin? I mean, and if not, what do you think would be fair?
There are different charges that have been modelled in the study, so they're really only indicative. If it's focused on getting enough traffic off the network to get the traffic flowing, it's, you know, it could be around $5 a day. We'll have to wait and $5 a trip. We'll have to wait and see what they come up with. We haven't got a particular sum in mind, but if you look at a number like that and you times it by 2 for someone who's got to go into work, working back every day, and they're not able to work from home, you know, that's $50 a week. So yeah, it's a big impost on people. We won't see that till down the track, because of course this is a legislation, then a scheme's got to be developed. But that's something we'll be very focused on. It really can't be a barrier to people getting around.
Because I mean, you know, it's what I'm concerned about too. I think it's a slippery slope. You know, it might not go up maybe year on year, but it's unlikely to ever stay at one price forever, is it? You know, inflationary expectations and all.
No, absolutely. And we've only had a chance to have a quick sort of skim really at the draft legislation, but it's looking at the way it'll work is that there'll be an upper level set, and then it will be able to increase in increments the way we've seen with toll roads over time, and that will be designed to keep traffic flowing, because it'll need to become more expensive over time as more and more people into the network with population growth.
Okay, you're worried about affordability of a congestion charge for those that can't change the hours they work, Martin, or minimum wage earners, and those that can't negotiate to work at home. I mean, there are some that just will not be able to change their hours through their business or through their work.
That's absolutely the case, and again, there's nothing in the draft legislation about it. I guess our hope would be that if it is put in place, it's put in place around the city centres, which is where it's been done pretty much everywhere else. Even in Singapore, people talk about it being a bigger charge than the city centre, and it is, but it's really only the approach road. So at least that's an area where there is regional public transport. Acknowledging your point about people needing to make connections, and sometimes the trip times can become quite ridiculous when people driving a car, even with congestion.
Yeah. Could this potentially have a negative effect on businesses? I saw in this report that, potentially couriers or heavy vehicles won't deliver at certain times of the day because they said that 90% of the vehicles stuck in traffic were cars. Heavy vehicles made up 7%. I mean, that's not, 7% is not that large, but you've got couriers going around in and around. You've got, delivery trucks to supermarkets and all that. Could we see them pulling back, Martin, and for their deliveries?
There's mixed views on that. Some people think because their, I'm going to use an economic phrase, but their value of time is so much higher than your ordinary commuter, if you like, they will benefit from the travel time savings, so they will be willing, they'll be able to make more deliveries, or if it's a tradie, they'll be able to do more jobs in a day. Other people are concerned about the impact of the charges, but I think overall the consensus seemed to be generally it'll be better for businesses, but there's I know in the city centre the businesses, some of the businesses here are concerned that it's just another barrier to people coming into the city centre, so they could lose business that way from the public, if you like, not coming in as much.
I understand that value of time, and couriers would probably like it, or maybe they can get around a bit quicker. But would or a trucking firm or delivery company would, Martin? I mean, again, this is you surmising, and I'm just throwing it out there. That would they not put that onto the cost to the consumer then? Imagine if they're going in and out 3-4 times a day to the CBD and raking up, $100 a day. Just saying, they're not going to pay for that. We'll pay for that.
I think that's a reasonable assumption. Generally businesses pass on costs. The counter argument for tradies, I live in Auckland as well, and often you get a bill. The tradies will give you a charge you for the time it takes to kind of get through the congestion just to get to your door, before they do anything. So some of the arguments are that if Auckland's less congested, those costs might come down.